Welcome again. My name is Miroslav Polzer. I'm with IAAI GloCha, and I'm one of the co-organizers of today's workshop on side event to the SB62, Localization and Digital Innovation for Climate Finance and Carbon Markets Capacity Building. Organizers of this side event are IAAI GloCha, Evercity, Climate Change Coalition, German Development Corporation, GIZ, Climate Kick, the Uganda Ministry of Information Communication Technology, and Balance, EcoBalance Foundation. And the topic of today's session is how can we build the data and digital innovation infrastructure which will allow the flow of funding towards local level climate action, especially for cities and citizens, and really making the connection between globally available financial resources like the Green Climate Fund, institutional investors, whatever, and the local level climate action. And here, especially digital public infrastructure is a central element. And before going into further details of the agenda, I would like to welcome very warm-heartedly Mr. Pedro Ivo Ferraz de Silva, Coordinator for Scientific and Technological Affairs and Bilateral Relations in the Department of Climate, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Brazil, and presenting the COP30 Presidency's Digital Public Infrastructure for Climate Initiative. Please. Excellency, we are delighted to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Miroslav, and thank you to host us here. It's a pleasure to be here and briefly address you on, our vision for COP30 in terms of, digital tools. We, as we move closer to COP30 in Belém, we are reminded particularly by the words of the COP30 President Designate, Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago, of the power of this concept, mutirão.
Yeah.
I think people have managed to learn it in the past months. So for those who don't know, not familiar with the concept, so mutirão refers to a collective effort, coming together of people to solve a shared challenge. So the concept embraces participation, solidarity, and ingenuity as well. So when we talk about locally led digital innovation, we are in fact speaking the language of the mutirão, because the solutions that will help us address the climate crisis at scale must be rooted in local knowledge, powered by inclusive digital tools, and sustained through shared responsibility. So the president of COP30 has made it clear in his up to now 4 letters that climate action must be territorial, must be just and collaborative. So he calls on all of us, governments, businesses, civil society, and international organizations to listen more and empower local actors through digital public infrastructure, climate finance, and innovation ecosystems. So let me give you an example from Brazil. There is an institution in the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro, Visão COP, which is a cooperative digital platform initiative, which is enabling communities to map local needs, coordinate cooperative projects, and share resources in a democratic, data-informed way. It is, we can call, a living mutirão in digital form. Another is the development of community-based early warning systems that combine local knowledge and digital mapping to reduce risks for extreme weather events, ensuring that the most vulnerable are the first to know, not the last. So digital innovation, when locally led, doesn't just deliver efficiency. I think it's important to highlight that it builds trust, capacity, and a sense of ownership. So these, in our view, are prerequisites for scaling any climate solution, especially, for example, in carbon markets where integrity and local participation are critical. So the letters from the COP30 presidency reminds us that technology must serve transformation that is fair and people-centered. That's why also the call for digital public infrastructure, such as an open, inclusive systems for identity, data exchange, and payments, that's why DPIs are so important. When designed with local actors and principles of equity and accessibility, DPI becomes a backbone for climate justice. So I think this discussion we are having here is quite an important step in the right direction, you know, connecting global expertise with local action, policy with practice, innovation, and with inclusion. So let's remember that the true strength of our digital systems lies not in their complexity, but in their capacity to empower people, especially the most vulnerable, to lead their own transformation. So let's build digital mutirões, that's the plural of mutirão. Let's build the digital mutirões together. Thank you.
Amazing, and really congratulations to this systemic approach of the Brazilian presidency. It's really, on the one hand, looking at all of society engagement and mobilizing grassroots climate action. That's so much needed and very often overlooked in this national governments negotiating, and on the other hand also seeing the need to invest and to build this digital public infrastructure which then connects everyone, and that we have an idea of who is doing what, where, how, and only this, when we have this kind of information, we can then create incentive mechanisms and flows of resources that we have climate action on scale. And let me briefly show you now an introduction to the presentation of the outcomes of the Climate Finance Innovation Workshop, which we've had at the GIZ last week. And it's about building a data and digital innovation consortium for the development of operational and digital infrastructure blueprint for locally led climate action, a model of local climate finance hubs, local climate action hubs, which are standardized and which can be replicated with the networks that we are working with. And so this is a event card from our event, and we had this objective to build a consortium which will then apply together for Green Climate Fund, because there are now is now a focus on locally led climate action, and then really having this model, this standardized model of a climate finance unit, an interface between local action and local resource needs and global resources, and then identifying the linkages with GCF priorities, and in general having a shared understanding of how geospatial data, AI, blockchain, and collective intelligence can support local action planning, monitoring, and financing. And the main picture is we have here on the local level the cities, we have the citizens, we have microclimate entrepreneurs with huge action and impact potentials, and on the local level, very limited financial resources. And we have funders worldwide with resources that are looking for projects, for a pipeline of projects that are de-risked and everything, but the connection is not there. But we say with the right digital public infrastructure, with the data and digital innovation infrastructure, we can do this. It's in line also with this call of the United Nations Secretary General in our Common Agenda report, that we urgently need a renewed social contract, one that allows many more actors to tackle increasingly complex and interconnected problems, and really looking at how to bring the individual, the civil society, private sector, and state institutions together in a framework, building this coordination and incentivization mechanism, some kind of coordination governance ecosystem that will mobilize in a meaningful and rewarding manner everyone everywhere to contribute knowledge, data and digital solutions, hard power, financial resources, creativity, and much more towards collaborative action for the common good. And this is this is already was presented in February at the UN Partnership Forum, our Global Challenges Action Partnership, and it's 100% in line with the intentions and the vision of the Muchirao, and therefore we are so happy about this. And for getting this collaboration and local action really scaling, we need several solutions like digital identities, a mechanism also for having digital collectibles or also NFTs, uniquely identifying action and impact, a global challenges action registry, geospatial data collection and processing. And we have also great cooperation with UN Geospatial Network and the One Map. We have a tool, it's called Challenges Mapping, a citizen science, citizens engagement mechanism that we learn from the people, give people a tool that they can say what is important for them, developing a dashboard platform and app with an AI assistant, and the digital finance tools are the key to really get it rolling. And as I said, it's connected with the Green Climate Fund's new focus on locally led climate action. And with this, I come back here to our podium, and we are delighted to have Björn Gigler with us from GIZ. They have great potentials and great programs already implemented, and being part of our consortium, we will achieve a lot. Please.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. So I'm still practicing Muchirao. Probably I mispronounced it, but I'm very happy that you mentioned right away it's about people. People, you said one sentence was very key, sustainable, but also people-centered. So we talk a lot about AI, you know, technology, innovations today, but at the end of the day, it's still all about people and local communities. So I think we should never forget that. So, and one process is about local appropriation of technology. The communities really know how to use, shape, and determine the use of technology for their own community development and well-being. And it has a lot to do with, as I said, appropriation and ownership. And what needs to be done to really make those innovations, such as AI, really useful to local priorities and needs for climate action. But maybe first, let me say a couple of words to GIZ. Who are we? What do we do? So we are the Germany's development agency, and we have around 25,000 staff around the world. We work in more than 120 countries, and the majority actually of our staff is in countries. So we really focus on providing technical assistance, support, building, like strengthening capacities, and being really a partner for our partner countries. And that's very, very important for us. So we have over 1,700 projects, and it's about $4 billion of our programs. So now on the digital side and data, so we have a digital transformation cluster, and we have around 140 staff, around 50 countries. So in countries, so we also have the supported countries in developing digital transformation centers. And we work a lot on really local ecosystem strengthening. In the carbon markets programs, so we have a global carbon market program, and we are also very active in climate support programs. For instance, in Brazil, we are a strong partner for the government, but not just in Brazil, in 45 countries around the globe, we have active carbon market programs. and we support Article 6 readiness. So we are actually concerned that let's be honest, Article 6 is rather complicated maneuver. Yes. So a lot of capacity building institutes, one of the most complex areas, I think, of the Paris Agreement, which has huge potential, but a lot of support is needed. So also in negotiations, for instance, Article 6 negotiations also with the private sector to put in place really strategies, frameworks, an enabling environment, which on the one hand is basing, as you said so nicely, protects the people, ensures the benefits and integrity, while on the other side is also then providing basically room for innovations. So so this is more our work on carbon markets with MRV systems as well. So now concerning our joint work, so we strongly believe, as said, it's about policy advice, regulations, but then also implementing concrete projects on the ground and providing the financing needed. So at the moment, we are implementing climate information dashboards to track the NDCs in 5 countries. So far, we work a lot in South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, Senegal, to mention a few, Cote d'Ivoire. And here, the emphasis is really to support governments to build country-owned systems. So the countries want and have the right to manage and own their own data, and to also have effective M&E tools available to track the NDCs. So, and then second, at the one of the key issues we've learned during this process is it's really important also, it's about data governance. So it's not an IT. A lot of people think this is all about technology. It's actually about the data governance, to have, for instance, data sharing agreements in place between Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture, so that we can really have a comprehensive view about the data. And the data is still the basis for the NDCs. So the NDC implementation frameworks are based on this process. And then similar with the private sector, we work a lot also, for instance, South Africa, to enhancing the programs and information gathering and data and platforms to get more up-to-date data. So current data is a challenge, data quality is a challenge, and data governance is a challenge. And then the last, but not least, is technology itself. So technology should be an enabler. And AI, for instance, provides unprecedented opportunities, but it has to be governed. So it's very important to put in place governance frameworks, which we also support. So we support governments and countries developing national data and national AI strategies. So now coming to our finishing here on the collective action. So I think it's really clear, and it's so nice to be here on this panel together with all of you. So I think we have to come together as a community of government, civil society, private sector, and donors for joint action around climate, and actually doing stuff, implementing things, and moving from the potential that technology innovations have to empowering people and governments to realize the potential for real impact. Thank you.
Amazing. Much, Søren, for your leadership, thematic leadership, also in this official development assistance or technical cooperation programs. Your digital transformation leadership is impressive. And with this, we come now to the next thematic group of our conversation here. Some of the speakers might join from the first part about this local level climate finance hubs might come later. But now let's go to carbon markets capacity building. And here we have Alexei Shadrin, the founder and CEO of Evercity, and also a founding member of the Climate Change Coalition, which is one of the co-organizers of today's event, is going to present us several of your solutions.
Thank you, Miroslav. And thanks everyone for coming to this side event. Great to see you here. I'm in this industry in carbon markets and in climate finance since 2011. I've been running a carbon fund. I've been doing consultancy services and working with the major big corporations since that time. And I was always amazed that, there are so many standards, there are so many impact indicators, frameworks. So it's a very fragmented market. And we also worked on carbon projects development, and we had to do everything by hand, create these long documents, do the calculations of carbon emission reductions in partnership with scientists. And that was so time consuming. But at the same time, we saw that there is a pattern, and that pattern could be replicable. And we always thought things could be more efficient here. And then in 2015 was my first COP in Paris, where I realized that we need to stop doing consulting, capacity building. We need to act. We need to focus on technology and innovation. And that led to a historical meeting between sure, thank you. And that led to a historical meeting of myself and Miroslav here in Bonn in 2017. So already many years ago, where we had the first innovation pavilion booth. Actually, it was a small booth in the Blue Zone at COP here, which promoted digital innovation and blockchain for climate action. Back then, we also enabled the world's first carbon credit transaction on the blockchain. And it already showed that a cross-border transaction could be done in minutes with high transparency, traceability. But that was very early days, which actually helped us to connect with other thought leaders, leaders from the UN Climate Change Secretariat, from other countries. And that's how we started the movement called the Climate Change Coalition, which is now like a historical association of more than 350 members from more than 60 countries. It was like a think tank and a union where we exchanged ideas how innovation can help climate finance and other topics. And then with more COPs to come, we've been talking with people from developing countries, with regional development banks, with projects, with indigenous people here at COP. It's a unique platform. And we realized that the reports about climate finance are very contradictory to what people actually face on the ground. That climate finance is not that accessible to developing markets, that it's very complicated to understand for indigenous communities, and even for finance professionals as well. It really takes a long time to raise climate finance. And carbon credits, they're great, but they come 2 or 3 years after the project has been started. They do not provide the financing for the implementation of the project. So it's like a reward, right? And the problem lies exactly in this chasm between the project idea and the project implementation, where you get the carbon credits. And another important aspect that we found out is that, of course, since it's a very complicated topic, projects rely on consultants from the global north, which are happy to help raise climate financing, create all those documents and calculations. But that is very expensive for the projects. You need to pay those consultants. And if you don't pay them, then in most cases, they also take the major part of the proceeds, major part of carbon revenues. And a very small part of these revenues are going back to the project, to the communities that are most in need, that are beneficiaries and the actual executors of the climate projects. And within, with our partners, with UN Climate Change Innovation Hub, which is the leading initiative of the Secretariat for supporting innovation, we had workshops, and we realized we need to change this somehow. So how can we combine digital technologies to actually help solve this challenge? And we realized that if we put the projects natively to the digital rails, if we start structuring the projects using digital technologies, then first of all, we can simplify this process, and communities, landowners can easily describe their project, their idea, what they're doing right now. And the system can tell them which type of climate financing is the best fit for them, how to get to the next stage, how to create the documents. And the machine can now create all these templates and calculations automatically. So consultants create these templates and PDDs for a lot of money, but the machine can now do it much faster, much easier. If we put this information to the blockchain, it is also more transparent. And the projects don't need to pay to consultants anymore, because the machine does their job to a large extent. But once this is done, of course, we need auditors to check it. Of course, there are sensors, of course, there are satellites, but we're not saying that auditors and consultants are not needed. Yes, of course, they're still needed, but to a much smaller extent, which reduces the cost and makes everyone's lives easier, including the consultants, because now they can work with more projects. And also this digital path that the technology can provide, it creates also capacity building. So what is capacity building right now? We all gather in a room, we present the Article 6 Paris Agreement, we explain about this, and okay, you now know everything, you can go and implement this in your countries. But if we put capacity building also on the digital rails, we can experiment with gamification, and the system can guide you through the various stage of the journey, can provide you hints, can provide you feedback on what you've inputted. So if we digitize capacity building, it not only explains the information better, but it also empowers local players of the carbon market on the ground. So if I'm a newly established project developer or auditor from let's say, Kenya or Uganda, I don't need to go to special university courses, World Bank, pay a lot of money for my diploma in climate finance. I can follow the guidelines of the machine. I can do my checks on the ground, and I can do the same task as the consultants are doing. But again, less time, less cost. There is no knowledge gap because machine is helping me to make this happen. And apart from that, finally, once all these projects are putting natively on the digital rails, all the data points are being kept together. Everything is being structured in a single environment and a single data room, which is beneficial for investors, because investors in these projects, they want to see structured data. And right now there is no standard, so everything is very, very different. One project sees this like this, another like that. But if we standardize this process, we have another feature. We can package individual projects into bigger portfolios, into bigger funds, which provide from the two things. First of all, hedging, de-risking. So if there is a big portfolio of projects standardized and packaged together, then if one project fails, the investor can get carbon credits from another project, right? So there is like a community support system, and Muchirao again. And on the other hand, there are very big investors. So, I've been talking to big banks, and they're saying, we can invest only starting with 200 million. We can invest only starting with 300 million US dollars. But there is no single carbon project that needs that much money, right? They need much less money, maybe 3 million, maybe 30 million, So if we standardize those projects, if we put them into standardized portfolios, if we put all the data points to transparent, low carbon, traceable blockchain, then we can unlock much bigger funding from big financial institutions into those projects. And this is one of the aims of our company as well. And finally, last but not the least, of course, MRV has to be provided, and we work with multiple MRV providers, and there should be local MRV providers as well, because everyone has a camera right now. Everyone can fly a drone. And again, we don't need someone coming from Brussels to Tanzania to perform this task, right? We can assign this task to local players who can do it, earn some money, and do the same job. And on top, what we are aiming for in the future is not only providing carbon markets. We want to provide an ultimate gateway to climate finance. So once a project comes, they are orientated towards different types of funding, and the funding flows into the project that has no idea about carbon markets, Article 6, green bonds. They don't have to know that. They have to do their project on the ground, and the technology can do the rest. So all this is not a fantasy. This is already the living technology. This is already being implemented. We are using a lot of open source and open sourcing carbon methodologies, digitizing them so anyone could use them, as well as other partners of the Hedera ecosystem that are supporting us in the Digital Innovation Pavilion. And we're also providing white label solutions to regions, to countries, to market players to empower them so they can claim sovereignty over this infrastructure and create their own ecosystem and their own countries. And in this regard, I would like to give the floor to our partners in Uganda, David Gonahasa, who is representing the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation of Uganda, to highlight their vision, their approach of innovation, and maybe a little bit about how we collaborate together, as well as with other partners. Can you hear us, David?
Yes, can you hear me?
1 second, there is a sound issue here.
Can you hear me clearly?
All right. David?
Yeah, can you hear me? Let me just, can you hear me now?
There is unfortunately no sound. Could you
Just a
please
sec.
check from your side?
Yes, I'm trying to change my sound. Let me know if you can hear me now.
The volume here is up, and you are unmuted.
Can you hear me better now?
Now it's
Yes,
good.
we
Now
can
it's
hear
good.
you, David.
Bravo.
Great, and thank you very much for having me. I didn't realize it was a simple change of headphones that would make this work. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for
Oops,
having
we
us.
lost you again. Something happened. What happened?
I don't know.
I can hear you very clearly.
Yeah,
Can
now
you
it's
hear me?
now it's there.
Great. You know, Uganda, like many other African countries, has not played a major part in climate innovation. At best, we are a project site, and there's very many speculative project developers.
Headphones.
Is it off? Can you
David,
hear
there
the
is
sound?
like some disruption. So we can hear you 1 minute, then another one we cannot hear you. Anything you can do maybe without headphones?
Yes.
Normal microphone.
You're just
I'm
using the
trying
laptop
that
mic.
now, so let me know if you can hear me.
Let's try like that.
Okay, can you hear me now? Oh no, this is very unfortunate. Okay, so just the next speaker could come on and I will try to fix it.
If it's not on our side, 100%. No.
Okay. It's okay. Let someone else come on. I'll come on.
David, let's try again, maybe something else, because yeah, we still cannot hear you, unfortunately, but we were hearing you pretty well before.
Just a minute. I'll try.
Yeah, we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
You can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe if you could be a bit louder, then the audience would benefit from that. Thank you.
Yes, I will do that. So as a country, Uganda, like many other African countries, has not been very active in the climate innovation space. At best, we have been a project site. So you have a number of speculative project developers coming into this country, like many others, and running all sorts of climate projects. Now, number of DFIs and GIZ, I hear you in the room, have done a lot of work to try and build capacity for innovation. The impact still can be a lot more because in most cases, most projects are very small with not very large impact. And that's what we seem to see constantly. What we're looking at as the Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry is how do we build local capacity to develop and commercialize
David, we lost you again, unfortunately.
It's really bad, unfortunately. Can you hear me now? I can hear everything very clearly and I can see
his side?
clearly.
David, we lost you. Let's try something again.
Okay, just a minute. Can you hear me now?
Perhaps you connect via your mobile phone.
I will just.
Now we hear you again.
Okay, great. So let me try to get it through very quickly.
Heard you for a second.
as the Science and Technology Ministry, what we're doing is looking at how do we build capacity.
The connection from his
climate
side seems to be
projects.
okay.
Yeah, but
Can you hear me?
the microphone.
Okay, I will share my notes. I think
shall we do?
We cannot hear you.
Yeah, David, we cannot hear you, unfortunately. Yeah, we'll hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I will try to run through it. Yes, so local projects development capacity, financing of feasibility for projects development, building up local auditor capacity, local DMRV capacity with climate tech solutions being built locally in country. And all this is being led through what we call the Carbon Access Lab. And this is supported by the Evercity project as well to help us quickly identify high quality projects and allow anyone with any idea to start building out something. I'll share some examples very quickly. We are working on a 17,000.
It will not work.
Yeah, David,
Connect via
unfortunately, yeah, it's maybe we can try and reconnect a little bit later, right?
Yes,
So we can.
mobile phone or something like that.
This is fine. All right then.
Okay. Yeah. But very happy to have you with us. It's this cooperation with you that makes the whole machine functioning from global climate action empowerment perspective. You are the key. And
yeah, maybe I can just say a few words on behalf of David, right? So with David, we are embarking on the country level collaboration where we share the technology and the country owns it, establishing the digital rails, the digital factory to transform project ideas from different parts of the country into invest-ready assets that could be commercialized within the Article 6 Paris Agreement. We are also happy to collaborate together with UN Innovation Hub that together we'll be organizing a workshop in Uganda and involving local communities, involving local stakeholders into this process, ensuring that the Article 6 is operational and that the investors are noticing the projects and coming to Uganda to support its innovative infrastructure and impactful projects. So yeah, we hope maybe we can reconnect a little bit later with David, but I'm giving it back to Miroslav.
okay. Yeah, perhaps Simone, would you like to say a few words? Because initially we agreed that you would say something from the city's perspective, but United Nations universities, Simone Sandholz, would you like to say a few words about how to empower local action and climate finance?
Thanks so much, Miroslav, for putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
No, thanks so much for the contribution so far. And I totally believe in the power of mutirões, and we're doing that in some of our projects, including in Teresina in Brazil. And let me quote on that, because I think the localization is so relevant, including for the digital innovation. But how do you do this, and how do you empower people that are lacking the digital infrastructure from the very basics? So I think on the one hand, this can be a very powerful tool for empowering, but we need to see how to bridge this to the social infrastructure so that really everyone can benefit from that. And I think that that is mostly a question to Ivo and then perhaps to the colleague from GIZ. How can we bridge this last mile so that actually we have this global mutirão, so that, but not only on the national, but also on the sub-national level, so that the people who need it the most have the access, but also the digital literacy that they have the understanding and can also generate the data needed, because I think only then it's truly empowering if they also have access to that data and that data doesn't go elsewhere so that they don't have access to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simone. Yeah, would anybody like to respond to that quickly as we are trying to reconnect also with David? Yeah. Quickly, and then we'll go back to carbon market.
Yeah, thank you for the comment and the question. And it's certainly a challenge from various perspectives. You mentioned skills, you mentioned infrastructure, and I think these are certainly fundamental elements. But, we've been witnessing maybe in the past 20 years, like some interesting movements. If we think about the scale that, for example, mobile communications have acquired, and how that kind of contributed for the reducing of the price of mobile phones and mobile phone lines, and the interesting story that we can tell, it's how mobile networks have evolved in terms of business model in developed and developing country. And I always make this comparison, when in Brazil and in developing countries, because of the prepaid model, gained lots of, became very popular because it was quite easy for, low-income people to have their mobile and really don't have the commitment to pay on a monthly basis, but whenever there would be some money to recharge it. And I think that contributed to actually quite a big mobile penetration in the country. And I think that is kind of evolving to really, I wouldn't say universal, mobile coverage, but nearly close to universal. So because of the, as I said, the reduction of price and so on. And that is also leading to the increased capabilities of citizens, even in, poor neighborhoods, to generate data and contribute to. Here in Bonn, I have had the opportunity to talk at least to 3 or 4, community-based institutions in Brazil, in Rio, in São Paulo, that are empowering citizens through mobile internet to generate data that contribute especially to climate change public policies. And these, citizens-based data has been challenging, data owned by the public administration, because, by comparing them, you see there is a difference. And I think the citizen based data has lots of more, more trust because it's generated by the citizens. So I would say I see a very positive evolution here. I think, of course, many aspects need to evolve, but from the experience we witnessed, especially in big cities in Brazil, I think, I think we are in a very positive trend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very quickly. So, excellent question. Thank you. So, for our data governance in Africa, Team Europe program, we support local communities, also citizen sciences. 2 examples, we work with Ushahidi in Kenya, in Tana River. This is very local citizens, communities collecting data on the tremendous, terrible effects of climate change and to monitor county level climate action plans. Or in Senegal, we work on a project with Fair Forward Carbon Lens, ground truth data collection, and combined with satellite image to identify the carbon capture of mangroves. So there's a lot of change. And then it's personal topic to me. So I've actually written a book about this topic called Development as Freedom in the Digital Age. And it argues exactly like you. It's all about social and human capabilities first, and then about digital capability based on Amartya Sen, by the way. So development as freedom in a digital age.
Bravo. Yeah. Thank you very much, Simona, Pedro Silva, and Søren, for this additional perspective that digital solutions will not save the problem. It needs to be embedded in a human-centered, social, enabling ecosystem. And with this, we go back to David, and we try again. David, please.
Great. Can you hear me? Can you see me better now?
Yes, that's perfect now.
Perfect. Sorry about that. I had a new laptop, so I was trying that out. Well, so the interesting thing about our play towards the climate space is driven heavily by the fact that Uganda, like many other African countries, has not really played a major part in climate innovation. At best, we are a project site, and if you go through any of the registries, you'll see many speculative project developers heavily playing in the space. What we're looking at as the Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat or Ministry in the Office of the President in Uganda is how do we actively build capacity to develop and commercialize or generate revenues from climate projects. Now, it's not saying there's not much going on, because I mean the DFIs are doing a lot of work. The UK government, the German government have had a lot of project financing, but many times they're in some cases smaller projects, and sometimes not as impactful as we think it is possible.
We lost the sound again.
Okay,
Sorry,
now it seems that's really on our side. Yeah,
It's on our side.
what can be the reason?
I don't know. Where's the sounds?
Can you hear me?
As we didn't touch anything, it's not with the connections.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. It's a pity. Can you hear us, David?
Very clearly. I can see and
They
hear you very
clearly
clearly.
can hear us.
Sorry about that.
Okay. But we have no idea what we can do.
It's fine. I think I'll
But
just
be
I'll share my
assured that
notes.
we very much love your presence, and we would like to hear you. But the technician called for his colleague. But meanwhile, I would suggest we continue in the program and give the word to Oliver Rieche from EcoBalance. What are your solutions in enabling local climate action and carbon market capacity building?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Miro. Yeah, good to be here. I'm Oliver Rieche. I'm the Director of Legal Affairs, Carbon Procurement and NDC Partnership at Balance, a global climate innovation firm that's really trying to redesign how we finance climate and biodiversity solutions. I think, yeah, as we've heard, the voluntary carbon market is in a dire state. It's crashed many times in the last few years. And carbon offsets very often don't work. I mean, they're legally weak, they're very fragile, short-term, and often they are divorced from local benefits. So at Balance, we are building something really fundamentally different. So that is what we call a balance unit. It's really a next-gen alternative to traditional offsets. And the reason why it's different is because we're simply trying to build it on 3 pillars. The first is biodiversity. So that means no monocultures. Every project includes measurable ecosystem restoration. Secondly, socioeconomic resilience. So at least 40% of the project revenue is shared with the local communities. And we've heard from our previous speakers that this is often an issue. So we're focusing on things like regenerative agriculture, biochar production, ecotourism, and that's really trying to create livelihoods that make conservations for locals worth it. So really trying to embed human rights into the DNA of what we do. And thirdly, it's climate. So there's a verified carbon removals from high integrity reforestation using diverse native species. So it's not just carbon, but it's really about justice and embedding that into the legal DNA of every forest that we create. And that leads me on to another key area, and that's permanence. Most of the carbon standards, as you know, only protect forests for about 40 years, but we actually go further and we say our forests have to be protected for 100 years. And we achieve that through a 40-60 split model. So the first 40 years is aligned with carbon standards like Vera, Plan Vivo, etc. And then there's a second phase where that's legally triggering a phase that's focused on biodiversity and the community development pillars that I've mentioned before that are then funded by the original buyer. And the reason for that is the atmospheric lifetime of CO2 is actually 100 years. So CO2 stays in the atmosphere for 100 years, and to truly offset its impact, you have to protect it for the same duration and not just 40 years. So the traditional carbon credits don't really work. We also make sure that there are biodiversity reports alongside the carbon data that are being procured every year from the project developers. And we've also legally contracted for force majeure clauses against fires and droughts and so on and so forth, and an optional W&I insurance for extra resilience. So all of this creates half a balance unit. To make that then a whole balance unit, we pair that with a local non-carbon tree that's planted near the client. So what does that mean? Essentially, if a client were to come to us and say it based in London, for example, and they were to purchase 10,000 balance units in one of our projects in Honduras, they can then select a forest in London where we are going to plant an additional 10,000 trees. And that really builds the connection between the business, the climate, and the place, and a real tangible engagement tools for employees and communities. And because our methodology is peer-reviewed and isn't actually replacing any of the standards and is interoperable with Article 6, something that we've talked about here before as well, our balance units can also be used now by governments to fulfill their NDC requirements. So it means that countries can continue to generate carbon credits, and we are simply going to build on top of the existing ones. So lifting them to a higher plane through the biodiversity and human rights pillars that I've mentioned before. So essentially, countries start becoming the suppliers of balance units. They list them then on their national balance sheets, thereby strengthening their credit worthiness and improving their borrowing rates and creating a new class of sustainable climate collateral. And the good thing about that is that it completely avoids exploitative resource extraction, especially in the global south that we've seen before. So you can think of it as a biodiversity-backed bond grounded in social equity. But of course, we're not doing this alone. We're working with actors like UNCTAD and several development banks to co-facilitate grants and technical assistance that countries can then apply for. So our role at Balance is really to convene and not just to implement. So we bring together project developers, governments, donors, corporates into a unified framework of trust. And so here at Bonn and also at previous COPs, we've already started engaging with various countries, Uganda being one of them actually, Bhutan, Mongolia, Nigeria, Egypt, all the way to Trinidad and Tobago. And we're currently onboarding a handful of those countries with a view to announcing a coalition of early adopters ahead of COP30 in Belém this year. So if you're a policymaker, a funder, project developer, or a country, then please do come speak to me, because we really feel a balance that climate action has to be much more than, you know, just numbers on a spreadsheet. It has to be permanent, has to be fair, and has to be biodiverse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver. And with this, we try again with David, because we have now our technician here in the room, and if anything complicates again, we will have an easy intervention. Please.
Great, thank you very much. I think if the whole world was this persistent with the work we're doing with climate, we definitely have breakthroughs. Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you now very well. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Yes. So I think I'll just get straight into the work that we're doing because I think we are out of time. So as the Science and Technology Ministry in Uganda, what we're looking at is building capacity to develop and commercialize climate projects. And how do we unlock this? So some of the things that we're looking at achieving, one is local projects development, and this could be of new projects aggregating existing smaller projects. One of the things we keep hearing in country is some of the reforestation projects are too small to be looked at by carbon buyers or anybody else. How do we make those work? The second thing is financing for feasibility and project development so that you don't need to worry so much about how do I go from an idea to an actual implementable project. Building local capacity for auditing, local DMRV capacity with climate tech solutions. And I'll speak up into this a little bit. One of the things we're doing is a project with a group called the Enterprise Neurosystem, where we're building a ground sensor neural network to try and monitor some of our largest, climate, some of our largest natural carbon stocks. So I don't know if you know how much is happening in Lake Victoria today with the algae blooms, or what's happening in some of the forests. So building out that to also provide verification capacity, validation capacity for remote sensing data currently available. We're also housing all this under what we call the Carbon Access Lab. And the idea here is this would lead or work as a venture studio supporting some of these local projects to go from idea to market ready or validated. And we're already seeing a bit of success. One of the things we're very excited about is our work with Evercity, because we are then able to provide a platform that the market or individuals can use to begin to try and build out carbon projects. And what we can do, because we then have visibility, is pick out the really good ones and feed them into the studio. And what Evercity does for us is really origination at scale, which is very hard to achieve across very many countries or nations. Some of the projects that we're doing, I'll give you a few examples here, is a 17,000 hectare carbon restoration project. This is in the east of Uganda, a place with almost 70% land degradation. It's a place where now you're seeing visible signs of poverty. So this is one of the exciting projects we're working on. 5,000 e-bus manufacturing capacity facility. This is already built. The buses are already on the street. These are some of the first African-made buses, and you can imagine what the impact looks like on that. I don't know if you've seen them, but happy to share more on that. Federated Edge Cloud to enable low green energy compute in the African continent, because again, the conversation now is all about how do you build cleaner compute if the word exists. Stablecoin based payouts to mobile money. I don't know if you know this, but mobile payments or mobile money is one of the most accessible payments mechanisms on the continent. And if you want to ensure inclusion at community level, you have to be able to run payouts through mobile payment systems. And what we figure we can actually achieve is stablecoins from some of the large buyers managing payouts into individual wallets at grassroots level with a lot of clarity around who receives the money. And of course, lastly, the project we're doing with Enterprise Neurosystem. So for us, as a country, adopting technology to help us achieve the work that we're doing in the climate space is important. Yes, there's a number of projects being done across many institutions, but we like to see ourselves as the government's incubator. So we test out and try out and validate, and hopefully we can partner with as many of you as possible to make this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this great example of a partnership of a public authority, and thanks also for the technician.
Your presence really
was magic. Yeah. And now I call Juana Maria Reyes, Market Intelligence and Innovation Manager at Volkswagen Climate Partner. You are one of the resource holders that we want to connect with local actions. Tell us how you see the challenges and the opportunities and pathways towards getting the system functioning.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the invitation. It is great to be here. And yes, as said, I would like to share a few thoughts from the perspective of someone working closely with companies that are trying to support credible, impactful climate action. I work at Volkswagen Climate Partner, which is a joint venture that develops and finances climate projects for our shareholders, Volkswagen and Climate Partner, an environmental consultancy firm, as well as for other customers. And our work focuses on ensuring that projects are not only technical sound, but also address environmental, social, and biodiversity challenges in a meaningful way. So most of the projects that we support at an early stage, that means that they often require more than just capital. They need technical guidance, they need reliable structures, they also need access to the kind of know-how that will allow them to scale. So that means that we work closely with project developers across different regions, and our team, which is based in Munich, includes fairly 20 people from over 10 nationalities, plus consultants, which are located in these in key countries that we have decided before. So one of the things that I've been asked, is particularly in this SB62 conference, is about innovation. So what is going and what is happening next? But I do think that the most important question is, what do we need to do to get it right? Because in case that we want to see these markets to work in the long term, there are several things to do. And I would like to start with this, to close this capacity gap related to the hesitation on the demand side. I would say that buyers, at least the buyers that I've worked on, because I mostly work on the private sector, they really want to make action. They really want to work with this market. However, they are holding back. And this is because of this capacity gap. And they are doing so not necessarily because of any commercial issues, because of prices and so on. They are doing so because they don't feel confident. And this lack of confidence is most of the times linked to this lack of visibility. So for instance, for us as BCP, it's not only important to know where the project is. We would like to know what is happening, who is behind. Is this project follow up over time? Is it running in the way that it should? And this is, for instance, where we do see AI or geospatial monitoring becoming extremely useful. It's not only about satellite images or tech just for the sake of it, but it is also about building trust, offering objective, consistent, and verifiable information on how this climate action is progressing on the ground. But that only works if data is integrated into the way that we could monitor and report how projects are progressing. Otherwise, it will be basically just decoration. One of the challenges we do also have, it's about transparency. So I would say that transparency is a tool, but at the same time, of course, is a goal. And this is important because it is, we need to know what has been delivered. For instance, if we provide, for instance, capital, it is important to know what has been delivered, how this has been managed, and the risks and the potential mitigation measures. And if possible, if they are implemented, and if not, when exactly they are planning to be implemented. And this is where due diligence comes in. And it might not be the flashiest part of the market, but it's one of the most important components that we do see in the VCM. And it includes the analysis of a project from the different perspectives, and including the Article 6 part, the readiness of the government, how exactly this is looking like, and how we could be, let's say, in line with best practices. And this, of course, due diligence is important because the registry approval, that a project is registered under X or Y standard doesn't tell you everything. We still see projects with unclear ownership, with a fragmented or segmented governance, with weak local engagement, as well as some benefit sharing issues. And that's a serious problem. Most of the times people think that, for instance, when you're engaging with a low quality project, it's a buyer's problem. But at the end of the day, it's everyone's problem. Because here we are, let's say, compromising the quality of the entire space. Of course, it's bad for communities, but it is basically bad for the long-term credibility of this market. On the financial side, I would say that we as BCP, we try to close this financial gap to scale up the implementation with upfront capital. But we have seen, of course, that there are many projects which are our interventions that are super needed. But although they have strong ideas, they cannot move forward because they lack of this liquidity at some critical points. So for us, for instance, the free finance tied to technical milestones, budget needs, and specific timelines is a way that how we could unlock progress. And then we can really help these good ideas to take off the ground. And this is, I mean, of course, pre-finance when structured properly, this would help us to have a clear sight. So for us as buyers, what we do expect from local implementation partners, and for the people on the ground, what they should do to meet what they have to do. So, and of course, I want to pause for a moment, and I was pretty happy when I heard the first interventions, because for us at BCP, capacity building also starts at community level. And this is what we are looking for. So in many cases, there are several technical plans, monitoring plans, like scientific plans. However, most of the times there are not resources or time invested into communities in transferring knowledge to people to actually implement activities on the ground. So if we want to change to last, it is not enough to build just a project. So we need to build local capabilities for monitoring, for reporting, for managing resources, and even for making future decisions without, let's say, mechanisms such as carbon markets. So they will last until some point, but the idea is that after that, they could keep doing what they do in a very sustainable way. So what I've seen, because I mean, I used to be a project developer, I've been in the market for more than 10 years, that when communities know and they understand what they are a part of, and when, of course, they have access to information, and when they have the capabilities to operate some systems, and the results are basically more robust and more sustainable. Otherwise, we risk of building a pipeline of credit projects that they look extremely good on paper, and we all know that paper stands everything, but we'll struggle to deliver progress over time. So to wrap up, fundamentals come first. I would say that fundamentals at this particular stage are much needed to keep moving forward with solid processes, with transparent data, with reliable finance, with technology, and with real investment in local community capacity. This is how we could give to this market the confidence for buyers such as us, Volkswagen Climate Partner, to act, and also to keep growing, especially in terms of climate action. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you very much for this perspective. Very valuable. And as this empowerment of local climate action with climate finance, innovation, and emerging technologies is a systemic effort, and young people play a central role. And we are delighted to have Delphine Magero here with us from Kenya, from the Global Youth Climate Action Fund, and really looking since several years how to connect your work and the work of your peers with global funding. Tell us your perspectives. You have 3 minutes, sorry, yeah, because we have also Kasia from Climate Kick, and at 1:15 we have to finish.
Thank you very much. Like you said, it's a Green Youth Climate Fund institution. So basically what we strive to do is ensure access to climate financing for young people. So the main rationale basically stems from, it's sort of an intergenerational issue, kind of like even without the concept of climate change, for example, youth in agriculture, access to financing becomes a problem. So young people, especially, I'll speak mostly on sub-Saharan Africa because that's where we are focused, currently focusing on. Young people, are looking into agriculture as the next big thing. In Africa, that's the next, where the next lot of billionaires are going to come from. But you'll find one of the main challenges that they face is access to financing. So even without this concept of climate change, access to financing for young people becomes a challenge, and financing through loans. But when you come to this issue of climate change, basically, and look at sub-Saharan Africa, we have a bigger problem than climate change, sorry to say. We have a bulging youth population. Africa is having a demographic bulge. For example, the average age of Kenya is 19 years. So it basically means that there's more young people than any other generation. But now we have a challenge of unemployment and climate change. So it has become inevitable so that we not only engage young people on issues of climate change, but also sort of find a link between climate change and creating employment, specifically green jobs for young people, basically. And we've seen that when it comes to discussions around finance, I've followed finance for quite a bit. Most of the financing is loans more than grants. And access to this climate financing, like the GCF, for example, you already have to have money to access money. So you must have 60% of the project to get 40% from the Green Climate Fund, all this climate financing that is there. But even that, you look at those who are able to access it. These are big multinational organizations who, of course, at the end of the day, because even this climate financing, being that it's a loan, not a grant, only around 5%, or they give the grant is for technical assistance, a small amount, they are more focused on how can I implement the project, then repay back the loan. So no one is really thinking about the young person, because what does young person have to do with return on investment? So you look at trying to find innovative ways of how young people can be meaningfully engaged in issues of access to financing for some of their issues, but also financing that supports a bit of green growth. For example, within some countries have national green growth strategies. So how many, I don't know any country that has made a provision that within the national green growth strategy, youth are going to be taken care of, not just engage the youth, but for example, every project that is being implemented on climate change has to have like a provision for highlight the number of green jobs that that project is going to produce, basically. So such issues are the things that we work very hard to look into. And for us, we focus especially on the local communities, because even within the African continent, Kenya is a casing example, there's a lot of inequality in terms of even climate information between the urban and the rural youth. You'll find that a lot of capacity building and training and awareness has gone to youth. So when someone talks about a youth, for example, the first picture is youth at the university, which is a good picture, youth in urban areas. But I feel like we are overlooking the youth in the rural areas, particularly the marginalized areas, because most of the time, it is not the picture that is given. When you Google, even on Google, what is youth? The picture that we are looking to address, our target audience, are the local youth in the rural areas who, for one, most probably they dropped out of school and they have resorted to, for example, deforestation, if it's a man, and then if it's a lady, of course, is now a mother of 3, but she's still under the age of 35, according to African rates, and she is still a youth. So even how we perceive youth, so most of the time we overlook such people, and our focus as a community has been engaged on, the urban youth, but our focus is looking at capacity building the rural youth, giving them information, and also exploring access to financing for their projects, and also implementing, in the interest of time, implementing with them potential projects that could generate some additional sources of income. So I'll stop there because of time. Yes.
Thank you. We are very happy to have you here, and we are also happy that you joined our workshop and that we are going to work together on this project consortium, that we will really unlock the hundreds of millions for young people worldwide. And another very dear partner in this endeavor is Kasia Baluchka-Debska from the Climate Kick, which is Europe's leading knowledge and innovation community, and a dear partner of our organization and our consortium. Dear Kasia, please take the floor and tell us your perspectives.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. I see we have 1 minute. I'll try in 2 minutes. So what we are bringing to the consortium and to the discussion are 3 main elements. We work systemically. Systemically means that in order to solve anything around climate, you actually have to also look at circularity, soil, water, on trade-offs and synergies between the different systems, between different industry, and between different solutions. And this is in this holistic way, then we can go quicker and further. We have learned that through working with cities. We are leading European cities mission. It's about turning our cities into climate neutral and smart cities. But we also work with regions and farmers and industry, because you always have to embed everything in the ecosystem and in the place where you are, like was just mentioned now, that different places have different challenges. But if we adjust the solutions to them, then we can make a difference and scale them better. So the cities that we work with are 112 in the EU. Could be like twinning partners where this knowledge and solutions go both ways. The EU cities can learn, but can learn from, can provide knowledge, but can also learn from solutions that we are going to see where the project will develop. Anyhow, Climate Kick already works across 60 countries globally. because many of the especially climate and environmental challenges are, of course, or most universal and global anyway. So it kind of makes sense to tackle it like that. We are also already working with entrepreneurs. We already have entrepreneurial hubs in many places. So we can, and different types of innovation happen there, digital, social, you name it. We're always interested in innovation which actually solves a societal challenge. And here with digital empowerment, we can really, again, accelerate the efforts. And with capacity building, because this is our third element that we bring, which is capacity building and our climate academy. We can deliver capacity building both to entrepreneurs, but also local communities, depending on what kinds of solutions we're looking at, but also public authorities, because involving public authorities is crucial. They are the ones who can then, procure the startup ideas that hopefully we will come up with, the young people, for instance, can come up with. But how do you scale them? The best way to scale them is actually, again, to embed them in the local needs, and this is where we need public authorities. And since it's 17 past, I will pause here. So these are the elements that we are bringing to the table. Thank you, Miro.
Thank you very much, Kasia. And really, the assets that you are bringing to the table, it's more than a table can hold. It's really huge. And this idea also of twinning cities and the hubs, also in connection with GIZ, twin transition hubs concept, this is so high potential. And really, I'm very optimistic for the future that we will come up with good project consortia, concept nodes, and then really fundable, investable project initiatives. And I would, talking about our consortium, and so I would like to ask Susanna Choe, my colleague, who was with us here last week. She is leading GloCha activities in New York and is now on her way to India. And at the airport, she said she might be able to join the call briefly. Yeah, the Digital Innovation Pavilion. It was one of the items on the agenda, but our colleagues from Rotary International COP30 Committee had connection issues. So it's all good. Susanna, you are here. Please, you have concluding remarks.
Wow, what an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me. Congratulations on this side event. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Just a little note about the Data and Digital Innovation Consortium. We have been hosting workshops over the last 8 months, primarily in New York, where we have been gathering many different organizations and individuals to participate in co-creating the infrastructure and the foundation for this consortium, which we're really excited for all of you to be a part of and create a commons that we can all share resources through and distribute the knowledge and capital to the projects on the ground doing the work. And we're really excited about this mutirao concept to really empower local organizers around the world that are adhering to this exciting new framework. It's actually not new. It's what humans always practice for as long as we've been inhabiting land, called bioregionalism. And it's really contextualizing our relationship to the place in which we inhabit that transcends beyond political borders, but of course also honors the political boundaries as well. But it really speaks to the bioregional carrying capacity of a geographical area that's defined by its unique natural characteristics like the climate or the topography, the watersheds, the ecosystems, that allows humans to really understand how to best shape solutions according to these natural ecosystems. So as we speak about climate and solving for our global challenges, I think it's a really inspiring way to incentivize better collaboration using the technologies that we have today. So thank you so much for these wonderful conversations. I'm looking forward to more in the next months.
Thank you very much, Susanna, for your inspiring words and for all the work that you are contributing to our partnership. And as I don't see yet the side event organizers of the next event pushing us out, any concluding thought that somebody of the panelists would like to add?
I have a short message.
Please.
So our landmark initiative has been the Digital Innovation Pavilion at COP. This is an annual initiative where we invite all innovators to showcase their digital solutions, use cases, talk to regulators, multilaterals, DFIs, innovate together. We have different topics over 2 weeks, everything from art and culture to finance, carbon, Article 6, biodiversity, Africa, you name it. So we are inviting you to partner with this initiative, inviting you to showcase your solutions, come listen, talk, and join the digital innovation movement at COP30 in Brazil. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Alexei, for this inspiring concluding call to action. Get in contact either after the event or via LinkedIn, and together we are strong. That's our key message. Thanks, everyone.
Could I also still just say one?
Okay. Please.
Yeah. I think what we've seen is that carbon markets can't really operate in silos, and it's really important that both project developers, corporates, governments, policy developers all work together. And I think this is really the key message here, that we have to look at it from a much more holistic perspective, also in terms of how we are going to come up with future carbon credits, looking at them from a biodiversity, a socioeconomic lens, as well as a climate lens. So if any of these hats fit you, then please do come speak to us here at Balance, because we are here to create this unified framework of trust. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Quickly, and then we are out. Thanks for the technicians also for your support, and everyone. 1, 2, 3. Super. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you from
Nairobi?
Yeah,
Sorry, I came late. I was in another meeting.
Yeah. My team is in Nairobi.